Hey guys, it is Tuesday, November 26th. We've had a not insignificant correction all the way down to 90,000. We've sort of since recouped to around 92,000 as I'm recording this. And the title of this episode is Michael Saylor is the Mule. Now, why do I say Michael Saylor is the Mule? Fred, what are you talking about with this mule stuff? Well, before I get into that, I want you to hit the subscribe button. The subscribe button on YouTube is what gets me more active subscribers. These are the lifeblood of a YouTube channel. So I really want you to hit subscribe. It's completely free. It allows me to get great guests and to continue to entertain you on this channel and on Bitcoin First, where every day, every weekday, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time, we bring out some great guests, and we have these very active spaces. So I'd love for you to join me if you want to talk. There's definitely room for talking. There's multiple co-hosts. We're getting a ton of people. We're getting 7,000 people on average every one of these spaces. Every single day we get 7,000 people. I mean, some days it's as low as 4,000. Some days it's as high as 12 or even 18,000 we've had for one night. But yeah, we've got thousands of people in these spaces. So please hit subscribe. That helps me out, helps out Bitcoin First. And thank you. So what do I mean by the mule? Well, one of my favorite science fiction novels when I was, in high school was called Foundation by Isaac Asimov. And, in Foundation and in the second Foundation called Foundation and Empire and the second Foundation, the second and third series of Foundation, there's this new character called the Mule. And basically, this book Foundation talks about this theory of psychohistory. And they're able to predict the future very, very accurately in this thing. Except there's this new person, this pivotal character that comes in, and he's an anomaly, and he changes the future, and he's completely impossible to predict what's going on. And I feel like this phenomena of the mule in Foundation is very similar to the entrance of MicroStrategy. And without giving too much away, I'm going to go into a whole model of what MicroStrategy is doing with MNAV and these converts and how it's sort of sucking up money that otherwise wouldn't be accounting for. But I want to lay down my thesis, okay? And let me stop by saying, when these ETFs came out, I thought the ETFs were going to play a very dominant role in the future, and that MSTR was going to play a much, much lower role. Why did I think that? Well, the ETFs are so much more efficient, right? You can buy an ETF, and it gives you access to the same thing as a Bitcoin, the same or better level of security than owning a Bitcoin in cold storage. And it does it for almost no money, 20 basis points. And furthermore, it's super tax efficient because if you, the BlackRock is not sort of paying any capital gains before they pass it back onto you. It's you're getting it as if there was this perfectly transparent and cheap vessel for owning the underlying shares. So the ETF is such an amazing invention, and it's just generally taking over the entire world and much more than just Bitcoin. So I thought, okay, how's MSTR going to compete? Well, I thought, this is just another closed-end fund like GBTC, and GBTC was trading at a massive discount before the advent of the ETFs. And in fact, they really precipitated the ETF by lobbying for the ETF and by convincing the courts that they had a right to reverse into an ETF. And so, Gary Gensler didn't have any other choice other than to abide by the court, and he did. And so we have the ETF. But what I didn't expect is that MSTR would actually do quite well and actually even outperform Bitcoin. And there was a huge demand, as it turned out, for these MSTR shares. Now, why was that? That was because there's so many people who still can't buy the ETF today. So I put a little bit of a survey out, and I said, if you can buy MicroStrategy but can't put the ETF, raise your hand and tell the world why. And we got tons of people like saying, well, I'm a UK resident. We do not have the ability to buy the ETF. The financial authority, the FCA in England, does not allow people to buy the ETF. Then another person raised their hand, well, I'm Norwegian. We can't buy it either. I'm Swedish. We can't buy it either. I'm South Korean. We can't buy it either. So there really is an enormous amount of entire nations who can't buy this ETF right now. And that's just the beginning. If you have an account at Goldman Sachs, you can't buy the ETF with that. Now, sure, you could take the money out and move it into an account at Schwab where you could buy the ETF, but people are somewhat lazy and they don't really necessarily want to do that. So there's all these barriers to people buying the ETF. And so as a result, people have piling into this other structure, which is generally available. Okay, the MSTR, just a stock, you can buy it anywhere. It's highly liquid. But then we get into this new phenomena that because it starts trading, the demand for it is so high, it trades now at a premium to its underlying Bitcoin. Not just a little premium, but a premium of 3x, right? So if you're trading at a premium of 3x and you peel away, you sell 2% of that every month, or 2 or 3% of it every month. You're basically selling dollar bills for $3, and you can use those $3 and buy Bitcoin. Well, that increases the Bitcoin per share of the flywheel, and then everybody notices that they're getting more and more Bitcoin per share for whatever they buy, so they start bidding it up even more. So there's this flywheel effect, and the effect of this, the main effect of this is that MSTR has bought, on the order of $15 billion worth of Bitcoin recently. So it started out with, just a single $500 million worth of Bitcoin in 2020. And by buying more and more and more and more and more, and having the Bitcoin price go up and up, it is now sitting on $35 billion worth of Bitcoin, and it's being valued at 3 times that or 2.5 times that, depending on the time of day. So it's being valued at almost $100 billion. But the real question is, can they continue to do this for the next 12 months, 24 months, or even longer? And I would have to say they're in, as long as we are still in a bull market, they will. Because there are still all these people who can't buy Bitcoin. Now, when will that change? Well, it'll change eventually. These laws eventually will change. But they're not going to change all at once. They're not everybody's going to jump in and change in the next 12 months either. So to some extent, some of this pain may go away for people, but others, they still have no option. And I think as long as we're in a bull market, this thing will continue. And this is quite good for MSTR. And this is something that I completely didn't foresee. I'm not sure even Michael Saylor foresaw it, but as it turns out, there's these unexpected consequences, and they can be profound. And what do I think this means for next year? Well, the entire ETF complex took up about $30 billion of new inflows last year, this year to date. It's not a stretch to say that the MicroStrategy could take $50 billion in next year. If that happens, that alone would probably almost double Bitcoin. And by the way, it's not going to just happen in and of itself. This is going to jumpstart more and more the TradFi ETF engine. And we're not talking at all about reserves or anything else. What I'm trying to say is that we could easily go to $250,000 per Bitcoin with MSTR lighting these brush fires and turning them into forest fires next year. So that's what I mean by this is a little bit like Asimov's Mule. It's a statistical anomaly. It's a flywheel that a lot of people are really having a hard time getting their hands around. We're going to dive into all the numbers with Sina tomorrow. So I hope you join me on Bitcoin First, and we'll have a really great space on that. And there's a spreadsheet you can follow along with. But until then, thank you very much. Thanks for following me. Hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and talk to you guys soon.